do appreciate very much you taking your valuable time to spend with us today. Today's webcast is featuring incredible products, OnScreen Takeoff by OnCenter Software. The concept of OnScreen Takeoff is to move from manual printed plans, scales, and markers, and moving it to the digital era where we can, on screen, on your computer, be able to work electronically with a file, to be able to mark up, count, and calculate all of the conditions that might be in a project that you would have opportunity to bid on. One of the great features of the product is that our customers tell us that once they get used to the technology, that they're able to bid about 3 times the amount of work that they were previously. In this competitive market that we face, obviously the number of bids that we make is in proportion to some degree to the amount of work that we're able to get. That's an important feature, as it's very common for there to be many bids for each job that's awarded. It seems to range a little bit by vertical market and area in the country, but I would say that if I took an overall, probably customers get an average of 1 out of 10 bids that they make. So when we're spending 90% of our time working on projects that we're not going to get, we want to make sure that we're as efficient as possible. OnScreen also has a great feature in allowing you to view very precisely what it is that you've taken off. This is not only great for being able to share downstream with engineering if a job is awarded, but it also makes it very plain and visible to the person doing takeoff if indeed they've counted correctly all of the items that they need to for a project. Another great feature of OnScreen Takeoff is its ability to communicate the output to other systems. In today's webcast, we'll take a look at a couple of different methods of taking the condition count calculations and being able to push those into some form of a estimation tool. Whether those are spreadsheets or programs, OnScreen makes it very easy to be able to communicate. There's many other tremendous features of the software, and we'll try to highlight some of them today. Another message that I would give you is that OnScreen Takeoff can be utilized across a vast number of construction-related industries. So if indeed you see that I'm doing takeoff of something different than what maybe you might be bidding on, please keep in mind that it's just the name of a condition and the unit of measure that we would want to be counting. And so if some of you are, for example, needing to calculate amounts of sheetrock or something, and you see me counting cabinets, it's still the same kind of applications. In today's webcast, I want to kind of circle around the front and back side of what we're doing. I want to start by kind of demonstrating or showing you a project that has been done in OnScreen Takeoff, and how that works and how we can get to not only the values for the quantitative takeoff, but in this example, estimation values. And then we'll circle back around and we'll create a new project. Somewhere along the way between those, I'll show you some of the features of the program. One thing that I would add in addition about OnScreen Takeoff is while it does a lot of things and it has a lot of amazing tools, you'll find that if you do make a decision to utilize OnScreen Takeoff for a portion of your automation strategy, that it's also very easy to use, and it's something that literally within the first few hours of having it, that you can begin doing very accurate takeoff and creating conditions for things that you might want to be working on. And so I think that hopefully that will make a good presentation for today. Again, thank you for joining us, and I'm going to get started showing you a little bit of the interface. What should be displaying on your screen comes from the Image tab. If we look at a project, we would see that we have a Bids tab, which is showing us all the different takeoffs or estimations that we might be working on. If you're highlighted on one and you go to the Image tab, then it's going to show you whatever image that you have displayed for that. And in this case, if we go to this button, it would show you the different images that are available within this project, and specifically the ones highlighted in the blue cast. I'm a little bit colorblind, so whatever that color is, shows you the ones that have some amount of takeoff that are done for them. So in this case, we'll see that it's counted the actual room types in the floors, and so it's done those calculations. And if we move down to the enlarged print of it, we'll see what was taken off. And then finally to the interior elevations, we would see the actual takeoff of each of the cabinets. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. As we move across, the Takeoff tab is going to show us in detail a number of things. First of all, you'll see that I've got it separated by the takeoff areas. Often our clients are looking at breaking up an overall project into some kind of ways. For some, it might be done by floors, others by rooms, some, in this case, by layouts. This happens to be an apartment complex, and so it happens to have 3 different layouts of cabinets. And if you'll notice in this, for example, layout 1, all of the items above, it has these takeoff conditions in it. Layout 3 happens to have all of these, and layout layout 2 then has all of these items involved in it as well. And so they're different, and you'll see not only things like the name of it, other kinds of quantitative information such as height, if we're trying to read that, the quantity, the unit of measure. You'll notice some of it can be inches, some of it can be lineal feet, it could be square feet, it could be each, it could be a number of different ways. So we'll see how to work out that. And we'll also see that each of these different condition types can have its own type symbol or display and account for its particular number. So it makes it really nice to be able to work with the program. There is a worksheet tab to where you could come through and throw in things like materials and labor for what it is that's been counted. But I want to show you a little more powerful way to work within the program as we move along. One thing that you might notice, again, if your docking station is out of the way, that we have a number of layouts, layout 1, 2, and 3, that have been created for this particular project. If I wanted to create a new layout, it would simply be as easy as saying, I want to create a new one, and I want to call this something else. And so in this case, I'll just name this layout number 4, and we'll see that it added another to that. So then we would be able to determine which one that we wanted to be current. If we wanted 4 to be current, for example, you would see that all the conditions that were already taken off have turned gray. You can tell that they're there, but they turn gray. However, if I said I want to make layout 1 active, just the conditions that were part of layout 1 then become active. We'll kind of zoom in here on this and see what it is that we've taken off. In this particular kitchen elevation, we'll see that we've got a one drawer base cabinet. We've got a sink base cabinet. We've got uppers. We've got all these kind of things that are making a particular layout. Notice that we're grayed out up above here, and that's because this is an elevation for the B type, for B4, 5, 6, 7, type elevations that we might be working on. So if I flip this over and said I want to look at layout 2, then of course we're seeing across this that layout 1 has been grayed out, and now we see what is active for the layout 2. And so that works out pretty nice. And the same kind of thing, if we were looking at layout 3, we would then see what was active for that. So what we've basically done is we've laid out the conditions in each of these, and then we have a layout count. And so then we're able to go through and determine how many of each of these are available, or the count for each of these that have been deployed in the project. And so it makes it really, really nice to be able to work with. We'll go back to the Layout tab for just a moment, and this is where I'm going to generate a file to be able to export. I know that I haven't taken anything off yet. This is an example of something to where we've already done all the counts and that kind of stuff. I just want you to see some of the automation, and then again, we'll circle back around to starting a project from scratch, importing plans. All those kind of things will become available in just a moment. So from this Takeoff tab, I'm going to tell this that I want to generate a file that we can work with. And in this particular case, I'm going to call this 1/14/15 for today's date so that we have something to be able to work with. If we wanted to be able to see that data that we just created, I placed that in a special folder, C drive, OSC documents, OST, and so now we would be able to find that file. Should be in alphabetical order here, and so we would find that we've got 1/14/15. And so now we'll see that we have all of this data that I'm highlighting became part of the project that we were working on. In this case, what I'm going to do is open up, in this case, a spreadsheet. This happens to be one of our customers that utilizes OnScreen Takeoff in some pretty effective ways, and they have a bid spreadsheet. I won't show you all of their details and data, but we'll get into enough of it, I think, for you to understand what is happening. And so we'll literally just be able to paste the data from this, and so we'll see what's happening and how we can even use the power of this to be calculating SKU numbers, how we can take in units of measure. You might notice that some of the takeoff quantities, for example, in this case might say something like, 57 lineal inches of this particular one-door wall cabinet, 42 inches high. Well, we know that we probably aren't going to want to build it that way, so you'll see as we make conversions across that it's calculated that that needs to actually become 4 products of a particular SKU item. So it really, really does some very, very amazing things as we're working across it. It would also give us the ability to refresh the calculations of data that we would be working on, and to be able to come up with numbers as we're moving across into what might happen. Even in this case, it would be telling us that we have particular things that maybe a calculation says, hey, what can we possibly do with this? And so it's finding something that we would need to be dealing with, and so we could certainly deal with that. So in this case, I could change, for example, what we wanted to be able to call this, and we'll see that there was a 9-inch base that happened to be in this takeoff data, but there wasn't an available product to be able to work with that. And so it made it really easy for us to be able to deal with those things, and so then we can refresh how the data works forward and come up with the quantitative values. Even being able to place these items in separate tabs to denote what might be in each takeoff. Again, this is just a particular customer's way of how they're going directly from OnScreen to getting all the calculations that they need for it. And in their case, they've got some smart things so that if we even change, for example, the door style of a particular area and stuff, it would readdress the calculations for them. So hopefully, if anything you got from this is we're able to take data directly from OnScreen Takeoff, and we're able to push that into other pieces of information to be able to work with. So let's go back to our Bids tab, and in this case, let's say that we want, I'm going to go check on data for a second, and I'm going to put into this and say that I want to work with this database as well. And so now I've got 2 databases to be working from, and I'm going to say that I want to make a new bid. And in this case, let's just give this a job name that we're dealing with, and we'll call this January Webcast. And I'm going to tell this that I want to be able to go select some plans And so again, I'm going to drill down on my computer to where I might want to go. I have some of these files in the OSC documents, OSD, and we'll find something that we could be working with. In this particular case, I found that I have a project. This particular one is called Holiday Inn, and so it's a folder that contains multi-images, and we're able to automatically bring those in. So now you'll see that we have a number of these that are here and available. So we could click on any one of them and move directly to that. You can work on any kind of zoom factors or whatever it is that you might want to be working on. You can rename the page to something that's going to make sense to you. You can just do a vast number of things, even in the upper left-hand corner, using it as a pan device. So literally as fast as you can move, you're able to work within it. At Roger Shaw & Associates, we recognize that providing you with the right kinds of conditions and strategies for this are important. It would be as simple as right-clicking and saying that you want to insert a new style set. And so literally in a couple of moments, without having to create things over and over, you would see that you could have categories of, for example, products. In this case, it has a lot of cabinetry and those kind of things in it. And so you could quickly do the takeoff of what it is that you might need. We were in the area before, and so just to make sure that we understood that and to create, a couple of areas, I'm going to call this employee, and we'll say we want a new one, and we'll call this office. Again, you can have as many of these as you want, and you can decide which of these that we might want to be active. I'll go ahead and select and tell it that I want the employee area to be the active one. If we just kind of zoomed in to take a look at this, we would notice some things about it. First of all, we've got a scale, so we'd want to be able to set the scale for it, so it's going to bring these in at the proper size that we might want to be working on. I could also be selecting from the categories of products as to what we might want. So for example, I see that there's some two-door uppers. I could literally select that and do the takeoff for that. So now you'll see that I'm beginning to mark up what it is that we're working on. And so I also noticed that I've got some two-door base, or people might call those sink cabinets, however it is that you want to work with it. If we move back to our Takeoff tab, we would see that we've only got this one area of employee, and we've got a quantity for each of these two products. And so just as an example, so hopefully this will make some sense for you, we'll move on to one of the other areas. And so, for example, here's the office. And so we'll come down and say, hey, in this case, I want to go to a drawer bank. And so I'm going to say that I want to be able to select this, and we'll take some uppers from this. And so we'll choose these. Even though the quantity in this particular area is only 2 for these, the total condition count is also being displayed. So now let's go back and look at our takeoff data, and we see that in the office we have these 2 products and a quantity for those, and we have in the employee area these. So we can begin doing takeoff and seeing lots of data happening for us literally on the fly. There's also a number of other features that are just tremendous with OnScreen. I want to go ahead and create one more area, and we'll just call this the pantry. And I want to show you how we could link all this stuff to elevations and stuff as well. So I'm going to fairly quickly do the takeoff on this, just so that we can do the counts of these and give us something to be working on. You can be as precise in the placement of these as you like, or some people don't worry about getting it quite as perfect. If you place something, for example, I'll place a cabinet here. I didn't like where it was. Literally, you can just hit the space bar and then move it into position. So it becomes very easy to take back something that you may have inadvertently done, and that you might want to change the way that it's going to work or display on your screen. So we took a couple of elevations here and placed cabinets for those. Again, if we looked at our takeoff, we would see that we now have an additional area called the pantry, and we've got quantities for those. In this particular case, I want to make sure that we understand what has been taken off. Some things may be better to be taken off in an elevation view, others to, for example, a plan view. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a named view. I can just literally window around something, whatever I want to display. I'll call this Pantry 1 and Pantry 2. And so now I have these named views. What might I be able to do with that? Well, what I could do in this case is say that, for example, I want to go to my first floor, and maybe I want to be able to zoom in on an area, and I'll wait for your screen to catch up. See if I can tell when you can see this. Just a moment. Okay, audience view. Looks like most of you are there anyway. Have to apologize. The program itself on screen, you can move blazing fast. But of course, we're dealing with the speed of the internet and bandwidth and all that kind of stuff as we're moving across. So we have a few of those things that we need to deal with. I'm now going to make a thing called a hot link. And so I could place a hot link and be able to select the named view that I want to be attributed to that. I'll put 2 of these in. And so now what you'll see is that the way that our elevation is looking, if we just kind of wanted to zoom out here for a moment, we'll see that we've got some ways to define the fact that we've already done some work on this. For example, if I now clicked on this, you would see that it's linked what we've taken off to this actual elevation. So it gives me a second display to see what I've done, and of course, if you need to make any adjustments or whatever that is. The same would be true if we clicked over here, we would see the other image that we've done. And so there's a great number of ways that you can work within the program, and we've just literally only highlighted on a few of them. In this case so far, what we've used is conditions that were already completed from the style set, but I want you to see as well that you have the ability to create your own on the fly. In this particular case, you'll see that there's a different type of conditions that we might create. Some of those could be lineal, area, count, attachment, and typical group. We'll kind of go through some of those. I'll make one that's lineal here, and I'm going to tell this that I want to have some kind of a, countertop, granite, whatever you might want to call something. It's really the naming convention of what you'd want. I can define whatever kind of colors that I might want for it. It's transparency, any kind of way that you might want to be working with it, and units of measure. So I might want to know, in this case, for example, the lineal feet that we're dealing with, or there's other quantitative lineal yards, lineal inches in this case. And so I'll just say that I want this to be lineal feet. And in this case, I'm going to tell this that I want this to have a particular size that we're working with. And so I'm going to say OK to this. Once I've created it, what I want you to see is that literally I can do takeoff on this very quickly. And so now it's calculated for me that I have these 2 counters that have been done. Let's do another example similar to it, just so that we've got it. Let's use linear, that's fine. And let's call this crown molding. And I'm going to tell this that I want this to be at like 7 inches. And we'll leave the color and transparency the same. And so I just want you to see that very quickly I could be doing takeoff to represent whatever it is that we might need to be placing for crown, those kind of things, wherever they might start or wind up. And so you can see visually those things are happening nicely. Even if I wanted to take off crown across this area, notice that I could literally tell this that I want to set it as a curved segment and literally be able to take this and even bend it into the curved shape that it's required, and it will calculate that information as we go. So again, if we're back to the takeoff side of this, we'll see that all of this information is realistically coming into the system, and we're able to work with it and do what it is that we need for it. So hopefully that's beginning to make a little bit of sense. Let's move down a little bit to the Business Center, and I'll just kind of zoom in here for a moment. Maybe we want to make a new area. I don't know that I can define the way that everybody would do it, but it gives you that kind of flexibility that can be separated out. And so we'll select this, and I'm going to say I want to make a new type of condition. In this case, I'm going to tell it that I want it to make an area, and I'll call this a custom counter. And so we'll work with this. I'm going to tell it in this case that I do want to use area. Maybe I want to have square feet, but I also want to have another one. And so in this case, I want to also know what the parameter of it is. Maybe for whatever reason, I need to be able to calculate the amount of edging or something that's being done. So it's going to allow me to literally work right through this. And what you'll see is that as I'm making positions for this, I'm able to create even a specified shape for this. And so now we can see that I have 43 square feet and 49 lineal feet of surface area. And so that gives me kind of a nice condition to be able to work with. I want to move back to elevations for just a moment, and I'm going to wait for your screens to get caught up. Let me see when you can kind of see where we're at. Okay, it looks like most of you can see now. I moved into an area called the exercise room, and I want to do takeoff in this area. I'm not going to bother with creating a new area for it. You can leave them and move them around later, whatever it is that you need to do. But I want to make another condition type, and again, I'm going to make this one an area, and I'm going to call this wall paneling. And in this case, I want to actually go to my Advanced tab, and I'm going to tell this that I want to calculate a grid, and I'm going to tell this that I want to create a 3-foot by 4-foot grid with a 0.75 gap, or what we might think of as a quirk. I'm going to tell this that I want to not only calculate the area, but I want to calculate the parameter, and I want to create the actual number of tiles within this. So I'm thinking about this being wall paneling, and so I'm going to click around the perimeter of what I'm doing here, and I'm going to even go around the doorway of this, and then we'll finish out. So now we have that calculated. I even want to be able to back out where we're doing calculations for this to tell it that I don't want to calculate the area where the windows are located. Try not to zoom too far for what we were doing here. Okay, so I did the back out. I think I actually made a mistake. Here's one cool thing about OnScreen is that you can select something that you've done and delete it, and you'll see that it's out of there. So we want to be able to select this, and the first thing that I want to be able to do is I want to be able to move this grid around so that we're going to position the tiles in a way that would be, best for calculation. I may not want I may want to create some symmetry and limit the number of tiles that we would be working with. And so for whatever reason, I have determined that this is the position that I'd like those tiles. Notice that it would change based on what I do. It's counted 15 tiles. If I made additional changes or whatever to that, it would have effect on that. I want to back this out, is what I meant to do previously, and I don't know exactly why I did something so silly. So now you'll notice that it no longer put that wall paneling inside of the window area. And so now it's changed the calculation for this. The actual number of tiles are what we calculated, but it's calculating the appropriate square foot and the lineal foot that we have of these as well. Maybe there's going to be edge banding along all of the panels, and we want to know how many panels, and we want to know how much square footage. And so there's a number of things that you can do to make some really good calculations. The question came, and I'm just pausing for a moment to read what we might have from questions. And once again, I want to remind you that if you utilize the questions section of this, you're able to ask them, typing them in, and we'll try to address them as we go. One that we have here is how are dimensions input as you go? And so that can be a number of different ways. So, for example, we could think about, let's move down to something where we've got an elevation, for example, of cabinets. If you might notice, when I was doing a takeoff of these, I was placing cabinets, for example, that were what I would consider to be fixed articles. However, let's just get rid of one of these for a moment, and let's make a new condition. I'm going to tell this that I want it to be linear, and I'm just going to call this a base cabinet. It could be any name that you might want. We could give this any kind of height that you might want to be working with as well. I want to go. Make sure that I do this correctly. Don't care about the precision of it right at the moment, but we'll just kind of do a takeoff in a second. You'll see what I'm doing. I then, instead of just selecting an item that might have an arbitrary size, I could literally be doing a takeoff to calculate its width. So if we looked at this again and said, hey, I want to make this, for example, display as 2 feet, for example, you would see that that's what it does. And so if I change the amount that I pulled this or pushed this, it's then calculating for this the actual lineal feet for this. Or if we change this and said that we wanted it to go to inches, it would then be calculating the width of the product as we're moving across. So I could say, hey, this needs to be a particular width that matches it. So now we have 28 inches that it's done a calculation and even rounding factors for it. So you can make this display with any colors that you want. You can have predefined products that have a known width to them. You can make them as lineal conditions and allow it to measure. You can also take from this and do a variety of things. Sometimes we just don't know, what some dimensions or whatever should be. So, we can literally take a dimension on the fly of something that we might want. We happen to be at 9 foot 7 inches there. If we want to move that into space, we want to change the size display. We want to do the texting, fonting, whatever it is. We might want to be able to add, particular text to an image to be able to show on the takeoff. All of those kinds of features are completely available to you at any moment. So it's really going to handle any kind of takeoff situation that you might have. And then, of course, the results from that takeoff can be used to calculate in pretty much any kind of way or method that you want to be able to use. Some of our customers want to just be able to calculate the size value of conditions. Others want to be able to take the data and to calculate actual bills of material, cut lists, material quantities, labor factors. It really becomes what it is that you want to accomplish. We can help you get there and achieve the results that you want. The most important thing about what we're doing here is understanding that we're able to very quickly, effectively, and accurately be able to do takeoff on any kind of set of plans within moments, and to be able to arrive at that data and then determine what we want to be able to do with it downstream. I would like to show you one more feature before we move on too far, and I think that this is one that I think you might find kind of interesting. I'm just going to zoom into a particular area, and I'm going to tell it that I want to make a new condition, and in this case, I'm going to tell it that I want it to be a count. So I'm telling it, hey, I want to be able to, be a certain particular size. In this case, we'll see how this looks, and we may adjust it a little bit. I'll tell this that I want it to be a rectangle shape, and so I'm going to take this off, and it would help if we get, okay, we got all of our scaling and that kind of stuff, and so we could, again, adjust how we want this to be, and so I'm going to tell this that I want it to do this. And so now I've done a takeoff. It's not precise for the size of it, but what I was trying to get at was a particular condition, and I'm just going to call this now Vanity. And I'm going to tell this that we want its depth to be displayed at 2 feet. We'll say OK to this. So now I've gotten what I want from this. I'll just kind of move it around. And I want to do something that I think is kind of unique here. Let me get my webcast docking station out of the way. And I'm going to tell this that I want to do a visible count of a particular screen resolution image. And what it's going to do now is take the window that I've done and look at all the pixelation in the drawing, and it's going to give me what it's found to be the closest examples of those. And so I'll say I don't like some of these. I didn't make it quite sensitive enough to what we were doing. But in just a couple of moments, I'll have most of those that I didn't like out of the way. That sensitivity level will make it so that either has to be an exact match or close or whatever. I saw that there was a little bit of garbage in it, so I turned it a little further. But I'll say accept the count. And what you'll see now as we're backing out, even though I only counted and put in one vanity, now it's looked across and found the other examples for those, and I see that I've actually taken off 9 of them at a time. And so that's pretty cool that we are able to do that and count all of the potential ones that we have within that. Of course, it mattered exactly what the pixelation was for that image for it to be able to work. But hopefully that gives you a really good example of what can happen, and allowing you to do very fast and accurate takeoff as well. I want to find the questions. Give me just a moment. There are, this is a good one. There are about 30,000 construction-related companies using OnScreen Takeoff, and so it's very widely used and definitely a significant player in the market. It's a tremendous product, very easy to use, and we can help you. Let's do some analysis and determine what the outcome needs to be, and we'll help you with a strategy to achieve those results. The investment can be very minimal with OnScreen. It's asking about pricing. It's hard for me to give you that without knowing in total what it is that we might want to accomplish, but you could get started less than $4,000. Okay, what else do we have? What about versions of print as they progress? How do you compare changes from print to print? And so we have a feature called the overlay feature, and so it would allow you to select an overlay image. And so now let me get this out of the way, and I'm going to go find if we've got an overlay image. Give me just a moment. On the in, and here I have an overlay, and here's the first floor overlay. And so now what you'll see is that it has overlaid one over the top of another. And so that allows me to be able to do a number of things with it. It would show up so that I have one in blue and my overlay in red. In this particular case, I didn't have something that was different, but it would have displayed for me so that you would see precisely what's changed. So the tools to be able to do that overlay and stuff make it very, very convenient to know if maybe they've added something into it that we need to be aware of. So you get a pixelation of blue for your original image and red for the overlay image, and so you see the contrast of those where you're getting a purple image, or you see the individual colors as you move across. So hopefully that's a good example. OnScreen handles all those things very, very well. Yeah, so the question is, I'm just going to change the way this is asked, but realistically, it doesn't matter what you're taking off. You can take off virtually anything that you want from any images that you want. It didn't actually know that that was a sync that it was looking for, it only looked at the pixelation of that image. So I called it a vanity, but there's no way, you know, this is just in this case, a PDF file that's been converted to TIFF so that it moves very quickly across it. Again, you know, the formats, you know, and stuff of files are very common, what it is that you need to use. You can either pull those in or be able to convert them as you go across. So there's fabulous tools within it. I know today's webcast doesn't give us all of the information that we need about a product, but hopefully it gives you enough information and understanding to realize that this, if you're doing takeoff in a manual way, this thing pays for itself literally almost instantly. Not only can you do takeoff at probably at least 3 times the speed, you've got much better tools for being able to, show downstream engineering, manufacturing precisely what you were thinking and doing as you moved across. It's a lot more accurate for the way that it's going to, count and calculate the conditions as we move across. So the question was, how much memory do you need on your computer to run this effectively? I'm going to go to the website of rogershaw.com. That's our website, just to give you an example, so that you'll understand that this information would be available to you. For example, if I went to our WoodCAD-CAM, software, you'll see that as you move across into the pages and stuff, that it gives you all the kind of stuff. So here's the software requirements and data that you might need for it. And so if we went, as your question was specifically, we went to OnScreen Takeoff, you would see that we've got similar kinds of information here, giving you not only videos but information about that. I will tell you that OnScreen Takeoff is not a resource hog at all, and it really is a software that you can begin working with. I've never actually come across a computer that you couldn't run it on. I mean, even a pretty weak computer, it moves fast. It's literally just images and very, very light data, for sure. It says, is this used by residential millwork companies? The answer would be yes. And unfortunately, in our industry, the term millwork is used to potentially mean a lot of things. Some might think of that as being doors, windows, stairs, moldings, that kind of stuff. Others might call millwork even cabinetry and countertops and islands and all those things. But the answer is yes to all of them. And so it works out really, really good for literally anything that you're taking off. I mean, there are people that use this program to calculate landscaping, roofs, pools, sheetrock, flooring, paint. I mean, it literally is able to allow you to do takeoff on anything that you would like. And so the question is, can this be done on a tablet or portable device? Yes, of course. It makes it very easy to be able to do that, even mobile kind of conditions. I don't think that you would do it on an iPhone. I really think for the resolution and being able to get in, as a matter of fact, if there was more common to it, it would be that customers use some fairly decent-sized screens, so they're not having to do a lot of zooming in and out to be able to work effectively with it. In some cases, people will even use split screens and have data calculations and spreadsheets on one and the images on the other. So I hope that certainly helps out a little bit. Okay, says, when takeoff is completed, how can that information be transported or transferred to another quoting program for pricing? I'm sorry if I didn't give you that example well when we first began the webcast. That was exactly what I intended to do, was to show you that we were able to export the data. I'll go to the Takeoff tab again, and we'll see that it has all of the data that we have done for the counting of these conditions, and we would be able to export this data. And so I'm just going to give this, what is actually a CSV file, a name, and we'll call this 114.15 15A, so we give this a unique name over what we did before, and I'll tell this to save. And so now I'll pop this open, and here is the file. So now that information has been in a transport file of a CSV, so I could easily take that data and to be able to do what I want with it. As an example, if I said I wanted to copy that and I wanted to be able to bring that into, some kind of a, spreadsheet that could do calculations for me, or a program or whatever it is, you would see that we have the ability to, push that data within the system, and then to be able to see how that could calculate quotations where there was matchups or make adjustments or those kind of things. See, if you'll notice here, it's calculating price for all these, and because I made some unique custom counter, whatever, it didn't know what I might want to do, and so here I might want to be able to throw, specific data at it, and, even quantities, that kind of stuff, as we were moving across. So now you would see how that's been corrected to get to our data. And again, these spreadsheets or programs can be greatly affected. I would say that the best thing that we could do if you're interested in the program is to let us know that you have interest, and let us consult with you on what it is that you might want to accomplish, because I'm sure we've helped huge numbers of companies be able to work with the data to be able to use it. You just got to realize that pretty easy to be able to use the CSV file and transfer that or transform it into anything that you might want. Okay, what about upfront setup? Is there a lot of time needed to input various assemblies, or how comprehensive is the assembly library that comes with it? Again, I think that this is one of these discussions that we should have individually about a particular company, but I will give you an example of this is just one of the style sets that we've made. We have all these different categories. If you see, here's all the different angled cabinets, base cabinets, corner cabinets, island cabinets, countertops, drawer banks, fixtures, die walls, whatever it is. I mean, there's huge numbers of things that can be here. You've seen me create individual conditions on the fly, so you know that that's fast. And so we can help you with a style set very, very affordably, so that you don't have a lot of upfront work, and being able to utilize the program literally right out of the box. So I hope that that gives you a good example. Each of these categories has a vast number of products within it. And again, you can have these as account as a lineal condition to where it would do calculations for you. Everybody's got a little different strategy when it comes to takeoff and estimation, and I feel like we're equipped to be able to help you be able to accomplish what you need, and we be able to meet the specifications that you give us. So, in this particular case, I don't want to necessarily get into specific estimation softwares. There's a million different ways that companies choose to be able to arrive at how they're coming to pricing calculations. And so I would prefer, again, for that to be a one-on-one consulting side of things, and we'll help you with some good decisions, or work on being able to plug into existing data that you have. As an example, there's a lot of companies that do use spreadsheets to be able to estimate. We can take your spreadsheets and turn those into intelligent data and abilities to be able to populate right into your existing data. So it doesn't have to be a long time before you can utilize the technology and to be able to work very effectively. I want to encourage you to go visit our website at rogershaw.com. There's a huge amount of information related to the construction and manufacturing industries on there, maybe some things you didn't even know were available, or strategies that we can help you with. There's also a number of videos, testimonials, and other valuable resources, so please do that. Anyway, I want to let you guys know that I appreciate you joining us today. It's always a great pleasure to be able to do a webcast and to be able to provide, not from a sales standpoint, but from an educational standpoint, good information that can help the industry, be able to progress and to be able to be more and more competitive in the marketplace. So whether you're a fixed SKU company, whether you build totally custom from absolute scratch, whether you're some combination thereof, of custom, I am absolutely sure that OnScreen Takeoff can be a tremendous tool to help you in your overall automation strategy. Thank you for joining us today. Take care, and God bless.